Hey guys, it's Cam from Craft and Tailored, and in this episode of What Is On My Wrist, we're talking about an Omega Speedmaster from 1995. The reference is 175.0084. It's also known as the Mark 40. There's two dial variants in this watch, but we have the black one, which is awesome, and we've never really reviewed an Omega Automatic on our channel before. I'm not an overall big fan of them personally, but I'm a fan of this one, and we'll talk about why, and we'll get into the details and all that fun jazz music. Cue it, David. Jazz. Interestingly enough, when I first got into my collecting, this is a watch that I had on kind of my hit list for a long time. I like both variations, and matter of fact, the first watch that really I think got Ben Clymer from Hodinkee into collecting was Mark 40 that is the Arabic version that has the blue AM and PM indicator at the 9 o'clock position, and they ultimately made like a Hodinkee, anniversary edition that was kind of based off of that version as well. This one being the 175.0084 is the more kind of traditional black type of variant without the Arabic numerals on the dial. And I like both versions. We just happened to get a really nice one in, and it's been spending some time on the wrist and wanted to share it with you because I think that there is some really good value in this watch, in this reference range of watches as well. There's kind of this connotation of vintage watch collecting being this exclusive, elite, expensive thing, and that's not really the case all the time. So there's a lot of great watches out there that I think really fly under the radar that pack a lot of bang for the buck, so to speak, and I think that this watch is definitely one of them. The Speedmaster is without question one of the most important chronographs to ever come out of Switzerland as a range, and not only is the Speedmaster esteemed historically, but the watch itself is an icon of design, and there are a lot of different variants of the Omega Speedmaster. This specific example, or the Mark 40 series, I think is a watch, again, that packs a lot of horological punch, if that makes sense. There's a lot going on in this watch, and if you don't really understand it, it's one that I think kind of completely flies under the radar, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about it, and one of the reasons why I really wanted to feature this watch, because it's really, really cool. So with a robust and compact design, the Speedmaster Automatic 175.0084, or also known as the Mark 40, is again an undercover badass in the neo-vintage category of watches. The Mark 40 is a triple calendar with a 24-hour indicator, and of course, that also is paired with a chronograph function. So again, it's a triple calendar with a date function paired with a chronograph, which I think is just insane. And we'll dive into the elements of the watch itself from a complications perspective, but think about that. The other thing too is it's also automatic. So you have a very complex sport watch that does a lot, but also at the same time, it's an automatic self-winding chronograph, which is pretty incredible. The other great thing about these watches is that they're relatively available. I would say finding a good one can be kind of difficult, like anything, but these watches are out there and they're very affordable. Matter of fact, you can get a watch like this for under $3,000, which is kind of amazing considering what's going on under the hood of this guy. The watch uses an Omega caliber 1151 movement, and this one being the more traditional dial format, it kind of looks a little bit more like your traditional Speedmaster. The thing that's interesting though is that in the Speedy reducer and the automatic calibers, you typically have 3 subdials, and instead of them being located at the 3, the 6, and the 9, you have them located at the 6, the 9, and then the 12 o'clock position with the Omega logo at the 3 o'clock position. So it kind of has like an asymmetrical type of shape to the dial layout. This specific example that we're talking about here from 1995, the tritium on the dial has taken on like a really incredible kind of like, pumpkin-y almost patina. It's not quite orange, but it's definitely like really nice, robust yellow. It's an incredible looking watch. And the other thing that's great about it too is the complications in the feature set. So let's dive into those details really quick. So within the 12 o'clock subdial, you have the 30-minute totalizer, right? So if you're running the chronograph, you're basically going to have, the 30-minute recorder located up here at the 12 o'clock position. But then within that, there are two windows that are cut out that provide you with the day of the week and then also the month. Now on the outer track, what you have is kind of this little, I guess you could call it almost like an airplane-like type of hand. I don't know what you would call it, but you see it in some other Omega references as well. It's a very, stylistic, Omega hand that you see, used in other references. But this hand out here that sits at the bottom of the hand stack gives you the day of the month. So you have 31 that basically rotates on the outside of the minute track out there, and that'll tell you what the day of the month is, which is pretty cool. At the 6 o'clock position, you've got the hour totalizer, so 12-hour totalizer here. And then, which is really interesting, you have the running seconds hand located at the 9 o'clock subdial, as you would normally with a normal Speedmaster. But then you also have a 24-hour indicator as well, which is really, really cool. So there's a lot going on in this watch, and ultimately it is, a very affordable watch with, I think, a feature set that is really incredible. In typical Speedmaster fashion out of the 90s, we've got solid end links on the bracelet itself. And then we also have this kind of interesting bracelet, which has kind of this like sliding clasp feature, which is kind of cool. So you can get the bracelet actually pretty snug on your wrist. And then what you do is you kind of slide in that inner blade of the clasp and then ultimately kind of lock it down. And the cool thing is you have like this hidden clasp with basically a little tiny push button to the side, which allows you to open up the bracelet. So some really cool stuff in this watch that, again, you don't really see outside of the reference range. And I think that these watches are going to become very much relevant, not saying that they aren't now, but I think that they are definitely flying under the radar. Sapphire crystal as well, so another nice touch and kind of feature set of the watch out of the, of the 90s era, speedies. One interesting thing to note is that, the crown in the first position will set basically the calendar, the date wheel, or the date arm, so to speak, which is quick jumping, so it's a quick set date, which is really, really awesome. And then as you go around at the 31, you basically will see that the month changes, right? So that's how that works. In the third position, you have the normal setting of the time, and that also operates the 24-hour complication that's located at the 9 o'clock position of the dial. And then what's really cool is that you have this little tiny push button on the side of the case. So there's like a little divot on the side of the case, and you can use a spring bar tool. And when you push that in, that advances the day of the week. So kind of like a little hidden, button there on the side, but you could take like a, spring bar tool or, like a paper clip or something. Spring bar tool would obviously be nice, and you could basically, adjust the day of the week pretty quickly. So the thing that's also cool about this watch, it is automatic, but if, for example, it's a watch that's in rotation, it has quick set functionality on everything, which is, awesome, especially for a watch that has this many complications. Imagine if it was all operated through the crown or something like that, it would be kind of a pain in the butt to quickly set everything. So again, I think that this is an interesting watch to talk about. It's definitely under the radar. I'll provide a link in the description below so that you can read a little bit more about the Mark 40 series and this specific 175.0084. And check these guys out. I think that these are watches that are gonna start quickly creeping up. And even though it is a speedy reduced automatic, it's kind of its own thing. The case measures in at 39 millimeters, which, again, most guys are gonna be like, oh, I need 40 or 42 or whatever, but on the wrist, it fits quite nicely. I love the bracelet as well. It's a very comfortable bracelet, especially kind of with that like I don't want to really call it like a glide lock, but it's more of like a gliding closure mechanism, which is kind of cool. But you can really get the watch suited and on the wrist nicely. And it's also light. Even though it has a sapphire crystal, the watch, wears really nicely. So this could be like a nice watch to have as a one watch and one watch only collection. I think they're incredible and again, very much affordable. So be sure to check out the links to learn more about the Mark 40 series. And as always, guys, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to follow us on Instagram if you're not doing so already. And if you've got watch questions, we've got answers. Be sure to drop us a line at info@craftandtailor.com. Happy to talk watches at any time. Thanks again, guys, for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one.